In a shock to absolutely nobody who's been alive in Southern Ontario or Canada or, frankly, the world for the last half century, the Leafs didn't win a playoff series. Wow. Couldn't have pictured that happening, could we? Well, now we've got a question. Who wins a championship first? The talented but befuddled Toronto Maple Leafs or the talented but not doing much Toronto Blue Jays? Let's dive down that path. Bubba O'Neill, both the Leafs and the Blue Jays have tons of talent. Nobody's going to argue against that. And you could even say they've got tons of young talent, although in the NHL they're not as young anymore. Which team, and there is a third option, of course, which is neither ever. Try and be somewhat optimistic. If one of these two teams was to win a championship, which one would be first?
Oh, you got a 38 behind my head right now, or like what? Jeez. I think there's more, certainly there's more imagination. I think there's more feelings, I think, behind the Blue Jays because of this young core of players that they have that I think that are exciting, and I think that we're going to watch build before our very eyes. We've experienced this before, like in the 80s, watching that young team blossom, experience playoff failures before they actually, put together the right pieces to win a World Series, back-to-back World Series. Where I look at the Maple Leafs and I look at the team, that franchise that's spinning its tires. So I'll give my arm here to the Blue Jays to start this.
I think the Leafs right now are closer to winning a championship. At least they're making the playoffs or playoff qualifiers at this point. But I think the Blue Jays, especially because there's no real salary cap in Major League Baseball, if their ownership really has an appetite to blow their budget and bring in some really high-priced, veteran, talented, key positional or pitchers to their roster, they would probably leapfrog the Maple Leafs because of the opportunities that they have. In the NHL, there's a salary cap. The Leafs have to adhere to that. They have 4 players tied to mega deals that basically consume a third, if not a half, of their salary cap. So I'll give the edge in this marathon to the Leafs right now, but the Blue Jays may pass them in the end.
I think it's got to be the Leafs, although I say that biting my lip and biting my tongue and grit my teeth and everything else. And the reason is because we've seen in hockey with the Montreal Canadiens as a perfect example. You need a goalie. And if you have a goalie, you can win. And even if the team in front of you is only okay, you can win some series. And I'm not sure that's Frederik Andersen because what was the number they pointed to yesterday? 0-8 in the last number of elimination games or games that he could clinch. And I don't want to say always because that's unfair, but very often in those games seems to give up at least one wonky goal, even if he's playing well. If the Leafs can either get him or find a goalie that could be that guy, it's one position that suddenly turns things in your favor.
It's not their biggest need, though. I mean, Frederik Andersen had a pretty good series against Columbus. He let in 2 bad goals at 2 inopportune times. But at the end of the day, this is an unbalanced team. They are top-heavy. They have a lot of high-power, high-paid, skilled players up front, and not a lot of depth on the blue line, not a lot of grit on the blue line, not a lot of talent on the blue line. They need to bolster their blue line. If that means subtracting some of their high-end talent to get some blue line talent, that's the way to go.
Well, they tried to get blue line talent, and it didn't work out. You got rid of one of your grit grinder players that I think would have suited a playoff series in Nazem Kadri. And yes, he's made many errors and mistakes and cost the team and series against back-to-back series against the Boston Bruins. But, hey, first of all, let's qualify this. The Leafs did not make the playoffs this year.
No.
This was not a playoffs that they were involved with the Columbus. It was a play-in. So which, in my opinion, makes it even worse. You're right, Rick, in saying that the Maple Leafs, and this is why I picked the Blue Jays, I'll keep going on this, is that the Maple Leafs are in a lot of trouble financially. And the way I look at it, when you have 4 players taking up half of your salary cap, and from what I'm reading and hearing from many of the insiders, the salary cap going to next year won't be a big significant change. So you're cash strapped right now. You're looking very much like the Chicago Blackhawks. But remember, The Chicago Blackhawks started paying guys like Taves and Kane and many of their other big-name players, Corey Crawford, after they won one Stanley Cup, and then they would win on to win, 3 and 5 years. The Leafs have done nothing. And I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people out there that love Frederik Andersen. What has he done? He hasn't won you a series. You need goaltenders to win you a series sometimes. Get hot at the right time. Is that all his fault? Probably not, because of the guys in front of him. You're talking about a team that are third best in scoring and 25th in defense in goals allowed per game. That's a recipe for a disaster. Teams that win Stanley Cups do not have that solution.
Especially when your team that is so good offensively, allegedly, at least in the regular season, scored 3 goals 5-on-5. 3 goals 5-on-5 in a series against Columbus.
But Scott, are we surprised? Because in the playoffs, that's the way hockey is played. It's different than the regular season.
I'm surprised only in the sense that I did think they would score some. I thought these games would turn more into the old Edmonton Oilers games of the 80s, where the Leafs decided to open it wide up, which led to all kinds of chances against their weak defense. But I didn't think that you would end up with 3 goals. I mean, look, the guys that they've got on the team should be scoring. And John Tavares, he was snake bit to a degree. He should have probably had about 9 goals in the series. He couldn't score. Flip it over to the Blue Jays, though, because we're talking about which one is in a better position. The Blue Jays have some very good young players. They've also got seemingly at least one guy who, in my mind, kind of is starting to look like the William Nylander of baseball, which is, when I watch Nylander play, well, I had a full head of hair before the series started. And Nylander makes me pull out my hair. He looks like the guy who won't adapt, doesn't want to grind it out. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I'm sorry, the most hyped talent the Jays have come in with in decades, to me right now is absolutely so overhyped. He is not even a good player right now. I don't even think Vladimir Guerrero is an average player right now. And I see no signs of him making adjustments to fix the problem that he has. Well, that to me is again, a sign of, you can have all the prospects you want. If they're not willing to get better and better and better, or put in the whatever work changes, whatever, I don't know how the Blue Jays, unless you get all buy-in, and then, as I think it was Rick said, a ton of money spent by the ownership, which I really don't see. I don't see how they catch teams like the Yankees.
Vladimir Guerrero is a super talented player, but is he going to be able to develop into the player that we think he is capable of? Is he that future Hall of Famer? We know that he has home run power, but can he play the field? Is he going to be a full-time DH? And then, how do the Jays build around what they already have too? Biggio, Bichette are probably the 2 cornerstones beyond Guerrero. I know Nate Pearson has shown, he's been brilliant on the mound in his very brief MLB career. But how, I guess, is there an appetite for Jays management to blow the budget? That's the question.
And there could be.
I don't know if you need to blow the budget at this point, guys. I mean, you're developing something. I watched a lot of tape on this Austin Martin guy he's going to be something else. Now, where you find him, whether he becomes the third baseman or a guy in the outfield, I feel like there's continual growth with this team. And I don't think you need to blow the budget on this team in terms of your Rogers right now. You're still building that core, and then you go over the top and grab, a couple of free agents. I think that seems to be the winning formula for what the Jays did a couple of years ago, and certainly what they did in their World Series years. I mean, again, to me, this is no contest. The Blue Jays are building something here. We have now seen the Maple Leafs with that core, right, of Austin Matthews and company for 4 playoff series. If you want to include this one as a playoff series, this is now 4 times we've seen them get knocked out of the first round. The Jays, I think, are still in the midst of building something. To me, the Leafs are the ones you got to blow up.
Yeah, no, look, now there's 2 different arguments you've just made there, Bobby, that have been conflated, and I agree with both of them. One of them is you do have to blow up the Leafs. The question is who's going to be there first, and I do think it's the Leafs because I think it's easier to build in hockey because, again, you can do an awful lot of damage in a good way with one player in one position who gets red hot, and that's if your goalie gets red hot at the right time, baseball, you need more than one guy. In hockey, you can do great things with one, but there's no question that you can't possibly go back into next year or expect to have success in the future with this roster as constructed or anywhere similar. There's no sign that this is going to be that team that would contend for a championship. None.
Here's the biggest difference between the Leafs and the Jays. Number one, NLSE owns the Maple Leafs, and as we've seen in the eons that have passed us, they have the stomach to spend. They're already at the cap. Their players are still in their early, or at least the core players, Marner and Matthews in particular, are in their early 20s. Many of them are in their mid-20s. John Tavares is going to be 30. So the window is still 5 years, let's say. That's a pretty long time in the National Hockey League for your superstars to be in their prime. When you look at the Jays, what happens if Bichette and Biggio and Guerrero hit their stride? Will the Jays be able to afford those guys? As we've seen with the Oakland Athletics in years gone by, say hello to Gus. They've blown things up because they don't have that appetite to continue to spend in the upper echelons with the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox and so on. So that's the biggest difference. That's why I'm still kind of leaning towards the Leafs winning a championship before the Jays.
Yeah, I just think that Rogers are smarter with the way they spend their money.
That's true.
Sports entertainment, right? The Leafs keep blowing the bank and putting this team to the cap, and they're getting no results. I think the timing of when you spend your money is more important, and history has proven through championships and even through the back-to-back AL East runs that the Jays had getting to the championship in back-to-back years, that the Rogers may be smarter with the way they're spending their money and in terms of building and then spending when necessary. And let's not also forget, with Major League Baseball, expanded playoffs will give the Jays an opportunity, even as a young team, to quite possibly get into the dance where anything can happen.
That's true, and you need a lot less depth in starting pitching in a short playoff series than you do. So absolutely, that absolutely helps. Look, the thing is, as much as I do believe that it's easier in the NHL, again, because there are fewer key players or one key player you really have to have, the flip side, to argue against myself for one moment, level of confidence that the right decisions will be made. Because if you're going to blow the team up, you have to pick which players you're going to blow up, which players you're going to get rid of. Have we not seen over and over and over again, over generations now, that the guys that the Leafs decide don't fit and have to be gone find their way to some other team and turn into stars? I mean, it happens with regular. I have very little confidence that they'll make the right decisions that will push this team forward. And so, while I think that the Leafs should be the team that is closer, maybe that's my point, that they should be closer to a championship. I've been alive long enough to believe that if the Leafs have a 7-goal lead with 30 seconds left in Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final, something will happen that will prevent them from winning.
Bubba, you brought up a good point in terms of the expanded playoffs for Major League Baseball. Can we all agree that it's easier to win a World Series once you're in the playoffs than it is to win a Stanley Cup?
Yes.
Because, there's a one-game playoff, or there's a best of 5, and then there's a couple of best of 7s. In hockey, it is the most difficult playoff tournament to win because it is an absolute grind. And it's a war of attrition.
Let me ask you guys this. This might be our last point here. And I know, Scott Radley, this is going to drive you crazy to admit to, but I am going to say this, and I'm really interested in your thoughts here, Rick. Right now I trust the combination of Atkins and Shapiro more so than I trust Dubas and Shanahan. I do.
Wow.
It's an interesting point because I like
what they are building with the Jays more so under the cash restrictions, if you want to say, than what those other two are doing. Because I'm already. Who knows? Will Dubas be back?
He'll be back.
That's right. All of a sudden, you're gonna have changes and bring in what's his name from the Islanders again.
Lou Lamoriello.
Lou Lamoriello. Suddenly he's back.
I think every NHL team that was every NHL team that was bounced in these playoff qualifiers has an excuse to make zero changes because of the unprecedented year. Listen, we had a 4-month layoff. We came back. We can play much better. We're not going to change anything. That's going to be the excuse of many. Florida's already made their move. Dale Talon is gone. I don't think the Leafs are going to change anything. I think they're stuck in their ways. This is the definition of insanity. They're going to continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, and they'll get the same results.
And as we go, here's the thing. We're taping this before the NHL Draft Lottery Part 2 takes place. Any discussion changes probably somewhat if somehow the Leafs get the lucky turn of events and end up winning the thing. Yeah, we'll leave that one for another day to find out how that could get mangled. Anyway, what do you think?
Trade him for a defenseman.
Say that again?
Trade him for a defenseman.
You know what? It would not be the worst. Well, yeah. It would not be the stupidest decision in the world. Honestly, it really wouldn't. But anyway, well, that'll be a discussion for another day. Who do you think wins the championship first? We have 3 options. The Jays, the Leafs, or neither are ever going to win another championship in any of our lifetime, so it doesn't really matter. It's a moot point anyway. Let us know. Twitter handles have been up on the screen. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys again soon.